An orca lay stranded in blood-streaked shallows, barely breathing, surrounded by dolphins, not circling to taunt, but guiding, communicating, protecting. As the tide rose, they moved as one, pushing the giant predator back to sea. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. The ocean gave nothing back. Jamie Lawson stood where the sand turned cold, staring at the inlet where the orca had disappeared hours earlier. The sun had risen high enough to burn off the sea mist, yet the memory of what she'd witnessed still clung to her, like salt on skin. Her boots sank slightly into the wet grit, but she didn't move. Not yet. Behind her, the rest of the rescue team packed up the gear: winches, thermal blankets, monitoring equipment, doing what professionals do when the emergency is over. Jamie couldn't shake the silence that had followed the cheers, that eerie, expectant hush, like the ocean was holding its breath. She had coordinated hundreds of rescues, some tragic, some triumphant, but never one like this. Not with dolphins acting like handlers, guardians. Something about their presence nagged at her, something not in any marine textbook. There had been an order to it, purpose. Still thinking about it? Evelyn's voice came soft, carrying over the wind as she approached with 2 steaming mugs of coffee, one extended toward Jamie. "Tell me I didn't imagine it," Jamie said, not looking away from the water. "You didn't," Evelyn replied. "I ran the sonar recordings. There was echolocation, sure, but mixed with something else, rhythmic, intermittent, almost like a call and response, coordinated behavior beyond what we've seen between species." Jamie finally took the coffee, her hand stiff from the cold. "You think they knew him?" Evelyn exhaled slowly, brushing a loose curl behind her ear. "I think he wasn't just any orca." Jamie turned, brow furrowing. "What do you mean?" "He had markings I've never seen before," Evelyn said, her tone shifting from wonder to unease. "Old scars on his dorsal, patterned, symmetrical, not from nets, not boat strikes. And there were barnacle clusters shaped like rings around his fluke, not natural." Jamie's stomach tightened. "Like tags?" "No, not man-made," Evelyn said, her gaze drifting toward the horizon. "More like ritualistic." A shiver slipped down Jamie's spine, and she hated herself for the way her imagination took hold. The ocean was filled with unknowns. She'd always respected that. But something about this rescue, about that orca, felt different. As if they hadn't rescued him at all, but interrupted something. "There's more," Evelyn added, lowering her voice. "When I scanned the area after the orca left, there were anomalous sonar returns, deep ones, shapes below the shelf, moving slowly, massive." Jamie swallowed hard. Whales. No vocalizations, no signatures, just shadows. She hesitated, then added, "And the dolphins didn't leave. They're still circling, just beyond the inlet." Jamie turned back to the surf and saw them. Small dorsal fins slicing the surface with impossible precision, never fully breaching, always just beneath the skin of the sea. Guarding. Or waiting. The silence between the women thickened. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. This was something layered, ritualistic, maybe even territorial. And Jamie couldn't shake the sense that they had trespassed, that in helping that orca, they had inserted themselves into a current far stronger than they realized. A sharp cry echoed from the cliffs above. A gull, wheeling hard in the wind, but it startled Jamie all the same. Everything felt heavier. Then Evelyn, almost absently, said, "Do you know what the old Salish tribes called this inlet?" Jamie shook her head. "The gate that opens both ways?" Jamie blinked. "What's that supposed to mean?" Evelyn sipped her coffee, her eyes unreadable. "I think we're about to find out." The sea shimmered under the rising sun, brilliant and impenetrable. The dolphins swam their silent patterns. The strange stillness lingered, and somewhere, beneath all that blue, something had awakened. The sky over Astoria had gone gray again, the kind of muted pallor that made the coastline feel ancient. Jamie sat hunched in the mobile ops unit, eyes locked on the monitor streaming live drone footage from offshore. The water below churned in slow spirals, indifferent, as if it held secrets too long buried to bother surfacing. 3 days since the first Orca rescue, and the world had shifted. She tapped her pen absently against the metal edge of the console, watching as the drone tilted, revealing the depths of the ravine. Below, the camera caught brief glints. White bellies turned upward in death, dorsal fins canted at unnatural angles. 9 orcas. 9. All in varying stages of decay, drifting like ghosts tethered by silence. Not a single one had been tagged in NOAA's Pacific catalog. "They're not part of any known pod," Evelyn said, arms crossed tight across her chest. "No photo ID matches, no known migration paths through this trench. It's like they came here to die." Jamie leaned back, breath shallow. Or were driven? Evelyn didn't argue. She pulled up a separate feed, sonar data translated into a haunting visual map. Echo patterns danced across the screen, tracing the Dolphins' path from the inland river, through the inlet, to the ravine. Curving, deliberate, not random at all. They'd led Jamie's team here. "We've been looking at dolphins as observers," Evelyn murmured, "but this suggests intelligence with intent. They knew." Jamie shook her head slowly. "Why would they care?" "Why do we grieve strangers?" Evelyn replied. "Because something in us knows we're not alone." There had been other signs, too. Reports had flooded in. Vessels off the coast, stalling for no clear reason, sonar equipment glitching near dolphin pods, fishing trawlers finding nothing but barren swaths of ocean where baitfish used to swarm. Patterns of collapse, converging with eerie synchronicity. And always, the dolphins. Not just appearing, but intervening. Approaching harbors, following researchers, blocking boats from certain routes, as if shepherding humans away from something, or toward it. Jamie turned to a new image on the screen, a still from the riverbank rescue 2 days prior. The juvenile orca, emaciated, eyes hollow, circling it in the shallows, 3 dolphins, one bearing a jagged scar across its rostrum. Not playful, not inquisitive, mourning. "It hadn't eaten in over a week," Jamie said, voice tight. "The stomach was nearly empty, and still it swam upstream, inland." "It was fleeing," Evelyn said. Jamie nodded slowly, "but not from predators." She reached for the folder beside her, thick with data printouts, sonar charts, forensic photos. Patterns emerged that logic refused to piece together. The orcas had wounds, but not from boat propellers or entanglements. Deep gouges, blunt trauma to the skull, old injuries reopening. "Something's hunting them," she whispered. Evelyn was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Or something has changed in their hunting grounds. Either way, the ecosystem's fracturing." Jamie looked again at the dolphin's path, those tight, looping movements near the grave site. Not just guiding, lamenting. "This isn't just ecology," she said. "This is behavioral evolution, cross-species communication." A pause. Then Evelyn leaned forward, tapping a section of the map. "This trench," she said, "it drops deeper than we've ever mapped. Canyons within canyons, and beneath it, old volcanic vents, high salinity, limited light penetration, maybe even isolation zones, acoustic pockets where sound behaves differently." Jamie's blood ran cold. "You think something's down there?" "I think something changed down there," Evelyn said, voice grim, "and the dolphins are trying to make us see it before it spreads." Outside, the wind lifted in sudden gusts, whipping sand along the beach like claws. The sea beyond the jetty boiled with erratic waves, not a storm, not wind-driven. Something else. A tremor, subtle but unmistakable, passed beneath Jamie's feet. Not an earthquake, a thrum, deep, rhythmic, like a beating heart beneath the crust of the ocean floor. The monitors flickered, static laced the audio feed, and through the interference came one clear, staccato burst of sound, a dolphin's whistle, repeating, a warning. The ocean was still that morning, eerily so. Jamie stood at the bow of the patrol vessel, wind tugging loose strands of hair across her face, as the swells lifted and fell like the deep breathing of something ancient. Beneath the water, the trench lay silent now, cleared. observed. No new bodies, no fresh deaths, just current and pressure and unanswered questions. It had been 7 months since she leaked the footage. 7 months since she broke protocol and risked her job to expose what no agency would move fast enough to confront. At first, the backlash had been swift. Disciplinary hearings, calls from legal teams, passive-aggressive emails from higher-ups. But then came the tipping point. The footage, unedited, raw, hit social platforms like a current. The Orca stranded at Devil's Mouth, the Dolphins circling in intelligent formation, and the underwater footage of the ravine, haunting and still. People wept watching it. Scientists went on record, not just explaining, but pleading. The footage didn't go viral, it detonated. Then came the calf. A young gray whale, wounded and disoriented, was filmed off the coast of California. A pod of dolphins formed a loose perimeter around it, guiding it steadily toward a marine sanctuary. No aggression, no confusion, just a protective convoy, like a military escort around a fallen comrade. The footage was clear, the behavior unmistakable. It shattered the last resistance. Jamie remembered the moment the call came in, from a NOAA official who, days earlier, had dismissed her findings as anecdotal anomalies. "We're shutting down 3 sonar testing corridors effective immediately," the voice had said, "and we're ready to cooperate on a full migratory impact study. Your footage opened doors we didn't know were closed." Within weeks, task forces had been formed. Coastal nations banded together in rare, almost miraculous consensus. Acoustic testing permits were suspended, fishing corridors were redrawn, and dolphin language research, once a niche academic pursuit, received more global funding in a month than it had in the past 2 decades. But even amid the policy victories, Jamie felt something deeper shifting. A cultural awareness. A reckoning. Children began learning dolphin whistles in classrooms. Media outlets replaced sensational shark stories with coverage of cetacean intelligence. One network even ran a special titled "The Other Voice of the Ocean," interviewing indigenous elders who had long believed dolphins were messengers, not metaphorically, but literally. Yet for Jamie, the moment that anchored it all came quietly, without a camera or a press release. They were patrolling the mouth of the trench, standard procedure now, part of a monitoring program backed by the international coalition. The morning fog had just begun to lift, revealing a wide swath of blue-gray horizon. She scanned with binoculars, her breath steady. And then it surfaced. The orca from Devil's Mouth, the one she'd watched bleed and thrash in the shallows, nearly broken. His massive dorsal fin split the water with grace and force. No mistaking him now. He had healed, grown stronger. A survivor. Behind him, 3 dolphins, cutting the surface like blades. Jamie froze. They moved together in fluid, deliberate unison. No other pod nearby, no prey in sight. Just them, 3 species that had once been predator, prey, and observer, now aligned in silent formation. They circled the boat once. Slowly. The orca surfaced again, closer this time. His eye, dark and glinting, broke the waterline, watching her. Not with fear, not even curiosity. Recognition. Jamie stepped forward instinctively, placing her hand on the railing, the way someone might reach toward a friend boarding a train they'll never ride. No words, just a breath shared across 2 worlds. The dolphins chirped once, a sharp, synchronized whistle. Then, with a final breach, they vanished below, descending together into the trench. Jamie stood there long after the wake had settled. There was no scientific protocol to classify what had just happened, no funding grant to describe the feeling that bloomed in her chest like sunrise over open water. But she knew this. It wasn't just rescue. It wasn't just warning. It was contact. And they had waited, risked, acted, hoping someone, anyone, might listen, might answer. In the end, they weren't just trying to save their own. They were giving us a chance to save ourselves.